In this video, we'll see about one of the renowned contemporaries of Dr. Samuel Johnson, that is Oliver Goldsmith. He was Irish and he played a prominent role as a writer in the Johnsonian age. Hudson says that he was one of the nearest persons to Johnson himself in both personal and historical interests. His journey to literature was very long and was uncertain. He was sent from Ireland to Edinburgh by his relatives to study medicine, but he didn't have much interest in medicine. So his bohemianism developed unchecked in Edinburgh. Bohemians are people who live an unconventional lifestyle without any commitments to a person or a place. They don't like to stay in a place for a long time or do the same thing for the rest of their lives. They just live a carefree life with the persons of similar interests. In 1755, he set out from Leyden on a grand tour of Europe by foot with just 1 guinea and his favorite German flute. He was like a lone traveler walking with a musical instrument. In 1756, he reached London and served as an assistant to an apothecary, then an usher at Peckham School. He was 30 when he finally jumped into literature. It was his acquaintance with Samuel Richardson when he became a corrector for the press, then wrote a number of potboilers as a hack writer. Hack writers wrote rushed articles and literary works which were not that artistic but were sensational works just for the sake of publishing and for money. It was not a piece of art or anything. Then he created substantial works and became an established writer after his friendship with Johnson in 1761. He owes it to his The Citizen of the World, which was a series of essays originally published in the Public Ledger. It was in 1761 when he became a friend of Dr. Samuel Johnson. He also became one of the members of the famous literary club, in which Johnson was one of the founders. It was a prestige at that time. Hudson calls him the laughing stock of the wits of London's literary world, as he was slow in talking and had a perfect genius for blundering. See at the way Hudson puts his words, perfect genius for blundering. And and he also mentions that David Garrick has mentioned him as a person who wrote like an angel and talked like a poor Pole in his mock epitaph. Though he was buried elsewhere, Johnson placed a tablet at Westminster Abbey which said, Oliver Goldsmith, a gentle master, who just wrote in which had interest in and didn't touch which he didn't like. He was a poet of talent and a prose writer of genius. His works are very miscellaneous in character. His She Stoops to Conquer has played a vital role in the revival of comic spirit. That is, it mocked the sentimental comedy, and it was purely comical and made everyone laugh. And it was The Traveller, which was a poem which first gained him fame. Here are his notable works. There are two poems, that is The Traveller, which was written in 1764, and The Deserted Village, which was written in 1770, and the novel Vicar of Wakefield in 1766, and two plays. Both are comedies. The first one, it is the She Stoops to Conquer in 73, The Good-Natured Man in 1768. These were the works that brought him eternal fame and glory. Of his two plays, it was She Stoops to Conquer, which is said to be his best work, and it is a play which consists of 5 acts. It was a comic masterpiece which mocked the simple morality of sentimental comedies. It was subtitled The Mistakes of a Knight. The play is light-hearted farce that derives its charm from the misunderstandings which entangle the well-drawn characters. Then his poems, The Traveller, it was a great piece of work which he wrote with his memories of tramping through Europe and his political ideas. Then The Deserted Village, in which he wrote about the condition of England at that time, because it was due to the industrial revolution and the agricultural laws. People left villages and farming and moved to urban areas to work in industries. The Vicar of Wakefield was a novel in which it was narrated by Dr. Primrose, the title character, whose family endures many trials, including the loss of most of their money, the seduction of one daughter, the destruction of their home by fire, and the vicar's incarceration. Before all is put right in the end, the novel's idealization of rural life, sentimental moralizing, and melodramatic incidents are countered by a sharp but good natured irony. We can also see his experiences and his trace of personal touch in his works. For instance, Dr. Primrose in The Vicar of Wakefield is evidently his father, who was a good priest. And the good priest in The Deserted Village was his brother Henry, and he portrays himself as young Honeywood in The Good Natured Man, Moses in The Vicar of Wakefield, and Tony Lumpkin in She Stoops to Conquer, which are said to be humorous studies of himself. His admiration to Augustan age and supremacy of Pope is clearly reflected in his prose works, and he brings out the style of the Augustan writers in his works. Unlike Johnson, who wrote in a more elaborate and eloquent style, Goldsmith wrote in an easy, informal way, which was entirely his own, and is said that he carried out the traditions of Addison and Steele. Goldsmith kicked his bucket in 1774 with high debts. It was his large-heartedness, sympathy, and humaneness that we forgot his improvidentness and his faults, and think of him always with tenderest affection. It was his works which made him great.